Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of September 14th, 2016. First thing is to ask if anybody is recording this other than LCAT.
Shirley Tankrabby for the minutes.
Thank you, Shirley. I'd like to take this time to welcome our interim town manager, Denise Menard, to our meeting. I thought I'd introduce her and invite her to this meeting so she could see a little bit about what the DPW does, and I thought this would be a great opportunity for her to hear and see what we're doing these days. So, welcome.
Thank you very much. I've actually watched you already on TV.
Oh, so, yeah.
No secrets in this town.
And since we're welcoming new people, I'd like to introduce to the board, I've met him, but Michael Warner, who is the new Department of Public Works Asset Manager, and he'll give a report later in the meeting. So, first thing on the agenda is to review and approve the minutes of the meeting of August 31st, 2016.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Next is the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Since we have several people tonight, I'm going to keep my presentation pretty short, and I guarantee it will be pretty short. First thing I want to do for the first time this fiscal year is to give the board an update on where we stand with our annual budget, as I've typically done every month or so over previous fiscal years. We're now into week number 10 of fiscal 17, and what that means based on the way that our fiscal year calendar is drawn is we're 19.2% through the fiscal year. And you can see by the comparison of where we are relative to our expenditures over our budgets, both comparing to last fiscal year as well as to this fiscal year. You know, we're trending well, I think, in every category. Even in one category, I'm happy to say that we've struggled with in some years, which is the transfer station disposal category, where we've been able to increase revenue in fees and reduce our costs. We're now trending pretty close to where we would expect to be this time of year. Awesome. And that's been a challenge in some years. Even building maintenance, which typically what we see this time of year is we spend a lot of money in the summertime, particularly at the schools, where school's out of session and Bruce and his staff get a lot of work done. You know, we're trending very well there, and that we are not as far into our annual budget as we are sometimes some years at this time of year. One thing I'll say is that because we're this early into the fiscal year, there is some variability in the expenditures. For instance, in our energy budget, a single bill for solar metering credits, for instance, can make a big impact in terms of where we stand right now in the fiscal year. And I think that's a big part of our trend on our electricity budget right now, because that's where that shows up. If that bill came last week versus next week, it makes a big difference in terms of where things stand right now. We also have seen some consumptions this summer being as warm as it was this summer. At some of our facilities that are air conditioned have been higher this year than they have been in previous years. So I think it's a comparison of timing of some of the invoices that were received, as well as some of our air conditioning costs being higher this year. That has our electricity expenditures still on budget, but perhaps higher than they were last year at this time of year. The next item I wanted to mention was an update on staffing. As the board knows, position that had been posted. Mr. Fenney and Mr. Esposito and myself, we interviewed 4 candidates for the position, 4 of our shortlisted candidates. I made a recommendation through the town manager, which was approved at town council last night, for an individual named Nick Giosi. Nick, just a little bit of background, he spent the last 5 years on a part-time basis working as a heavy equipment operator with the Army National Guard. He did 1 tour in Afghanistan, I believe, in 2014. Brings some pretty good skills in terms of equipment operation, construction experience from his time in the National Guard, as well as current position, which is a truck driving position and landscaping position. And also has some local ties. He worked for a number of years for Northeast Lumber in town, and came very highly recommended by the president of Northeast Lumber. So I think we're all very impressed with him. I think a combination of having somebody, he doesn't live in town, but he's got some local contacts, knows the town, as well as somebody who's currently serving in the Army National Guard, I think will be a good addition to our team.
Do we have any others that are in the National Guard or in the military that take their summer?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
We have several staff who have served previously
Right.
in the service, but
Nobody's active.
no active. Right. The next item I did want to mention was that the planning director, myself, and Rob McDonald, we did meet with the property owner that we've talked about previously at 16 Meadowbrook Road, where there was the encroachments within the public right-of-way. He understands our concern. He is talking about the possibility of trying to either acquire that portion of the right-of-way or lease that portion of the right-of-way. We did explain to him that it's a fairly involved process where the town would have to declare that property as surplus property, would have to offer it up to not just himself, but anyone else that might be interested in utilizing that property. It would likely come with significant restrictions in terms of how the property could be used. So the primary concerns that we have in terms of traffic cutting through the property and impacts on lines of sight and things like that, clearly that would have to be dealt with in any sort of formal process to either lease or sell property. But he may be coming forward with, a request, and it would then have to work its way through the town departments, through the town manager and the town council, ultimately before anything like that could be considered. So we'll see. That he hasn't given up hope, but he does understand.
Did he explain why that's so important versus going back 60 feet? I mean, we're not going to build on that
Right.
little triangle, so it's not going to be like something's going to be put there to impede the visibility of
Right.
his. I'm just so curious as to why he thinks that's so important instead of, doesn't he have acreage? Like,
He certainly has 12 acres of property. I think part of it is that he's made improvements without any approval from anyone on that property already, and perhaps he wants to try to salvage as much of that as he can. But at this point, we've told him that, unless something changes and the town is ultimately willing to enter into some sort of agreement with him, that he would have to restore that property back to its original condition and correct the problem that currently exists out there. So, we'll see. We may, if this drags on, we may have to at some point give him some point date certain where you would have to do that. Right now, he has responded to what we asked for him to do, which is to block off the access to the property so we don't have vehicles cutting that corner, and he's done that, and he continues to maintain that. So I think as long as that is done, we don't have a crisis that needs to be addressed right away, but it is an issue that isn't going to go away, on its own.
I mean, I don't want to make his decision for him, but the amount of legal fees that I'm assuming he's going to encounter to deal with our legal side of the formula, which I don't think we really want to pay any of the legal fees.
Right.
So he would have to pay, he would have to pay all of our legal fees,
Right.
plus all of his legal fees, plus all the title work and deed transfers and all. I just can't imagine that that's less expensive than just moving it back 60 feet and putting grass back there.
Well, I don't think the town has any interest in.
I think it's a difficult process. I mean, even if somewhere that I'm not thinking of or nobody in the room is thinking of it came around, but I don't see it. But I don't want to be the naysayer. I'm just saying, does he really understand how much it could cost in just trying to get it posted and printed? We're not going to pay for any of it. So all kinds of dollars that I just, if he knows all that, I don't understand what he's doing. So
I suspect he hasn't thought through that.
all right, so maybe we could go out of our way and at least respond with, as we discussed it more or thought about it more or brought it up, has he considered the legal fees, because he's paying ours and his legal fees, and even if there were postings and interest in town and all the things we would have to do, he's spending thousands of dollars for an outcome that seems highly unlikely. And maybe that'll be enough to have him go, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't think of that. I don't know.
The only possible upside to the town, I don't want to get too much into the nuts and bolts of this, is that his proposed current use for his property is an agricultural use, turning it into a Christmas tree farm, putting a farm stand out front. If there is a way to ensure the continued agricultural use of that property longer term. The town might see that as a benefit that might be worth coming to the table to at least have a discussion. But if that wasn't something from a land planning standpoint that the town saw any value to, then I don't see that there's any upside to the town.
Is he currently a 61B or whatever that
He's
is?
61B now, he's moving into 61A, but that can be reversed at any point through payment of back taxes. And again, that's it's more of a philosophical discussion that would have to happen does the town planning department, town departments, town council see an upside to keeping property in an undeveloped state or a agriculturally developed state, and is that worth a discussion that would benefit him in exchange for that?
Well,
We'll see.
Let's see where it goes.
But to your point, I think that he needs to understand right up front that this isn't anything that we're willing to invest resources in.
Yeah, and it's not a handshake. I mean, none of us can just make a
No.
handshake and go, okay, let's swap. I mean,
Right.
this is a lot of legal stuff that, all right.
And it's something ultimately that would have to go to town council. I would expect that the DPW and Board of Public Works would be consulted for input in terms of use of a public right-of-way, but ultimately, just like would have to go to town meeting if surplus property was sold, the same type of final decision would have to go
We
through
get
town council.
sewer and water lines running through there?
We do have a drain line and a sewer line that goes through here.
I thought so.
In a water line.
Right,
Right, sewer, water and drain through there.
right. Through the private property. We have an easement on the private property for those utilities. I did, before I turn things over to others, I did just want to talk a little bit more about the position that Mike Warner started in September 1st. It's a new position that we created. We created it to really help to bring one, to help make certain that we are maintaining and managing the assets that town owns as efficiently as we can. So really his job description has 4 kind of broad categories. He's going to help us develop an up-to-date computer maintenance management system, which is a system by which we will essentially run our business. A system by which we will create work orders, system by which we will interface with the public, a system by which we'll track our costs and time associated with maintaining the town's assets, maintaining the town's infrastructure. It'll develop over time. Obviously, it won't all happen at once, but it'll give us the ability, I think, to use technology and to use technology to become more technologically friendly to our residents and our customers. Nowadays, we have to have the ability for residents to be able to interface with us, through the internet, through the web, and not necessarily just, some people are very comfortable picking up the phone or stopping by. Other people are much more comfortable getting on their telephone and sending us an email or connecting to this maintenance management system that would allow them to do that. So that's part of Mike's position. We have invested a lot of time and money over the years building our databases of our assets in the town, but we still have other databases that we need to create, and Mike is going to talk about one of those right now, our streetlight database, which we've finally put in place at this point.
It only took a few years.
And doing other things that we haven't done yet, like inventorying street trees eventually, and other types of things that we eventually have to, that we own, that we have to maintain, that we have to figure out how much money should we be investing, or how much money can we afford to invest in some of these assets.
Did you say street trees?
Street trees.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
because our budget to trim them, I don't think it comes anywhere close.
No.
Yeah.
And, just like, until recently, I had no idea how many stop signs we owned in town. We've now gone through and we've counted every single stop sign. We've inventoried every stop sign. We now have a database that says, if we think we need to replace every stop sign once every 10 years, we better be setting aside 10% of the cost of that asset every year in order to properly manage it and keep it up to date. So it all builds on information, and it's getting the information and managing the information and keeping that information up to date. That I expect as we go forward, there'll be a number of projects that we get involved with that involve data management, involve GIS, anything from the Stormwater Phase 2 program that has a very intensive monitoring requirement and data management requirement that goes along with demonstrating compliance with the new regulations. Another item somewhere down the road that I really want to focus on is really sorting out where we stand with the town-owned right-of-ways and the paper streets that are out there. As you know, there are many streets around town that the residents may think of are town-owned, but portions of them are actually not town-owned. And the first step of that is confirming what we have, and then ultimately making decisions about where do we go from there. You know, do we accept some of these paper streets so that we can be able to benefit from a great increase in street miles so we can qualify for more Chapter 90 funding, for example. Right now, we don't have the information to be able to go through and make the case that we actually need more money than we currently get from the state, because these streets that residents think are public streets, some of them are public streets. They just look like them, but on paper and legally, they aren't at this point. So I expect there'll be a number of projects like this that just continue over the years that we'll use Mike's capabilities on. And then just in general, helping us focus on improved technology across the board, whatever it happens to be, whether it's automatic vehicle tracking systems or other types of systems that are becoming more and more, taking what we have and helping to improve upon what we have and adding to what we currently have. So that's where I see Mike Finney, and he'll have a few minutes to speak later tonight.
In hydrants and flows, we work in conjunction with the fire department. Do they have a database where they keep track of flows on hydrants, or do we do that?
They have a database that was jointly, and then when I say database, old technology, it's a 3-ring binder with pieces of paper in it that we jointly developed a number of years ago. We have incorporated that information now into the GIS database, so it is available electronically. So I, on my phone, can tap on a fire hydrant. I can see the fire department has the same application on their phone, so they can see what the available firefighting capacity is at that hydrant. Many of those capacities have increased over the years because we've made a number of improvements to some of our critical infrastructure. So we've talked about it, we haven't done it yet, but talked about having another round of fairly intensive, not flushing, because flushing is different than flow testing. It's
Right.
a different process, but going through and systematically flow testing the fire hydrants in town to come up with updated numbers that we know will be better than what they had been the last time this was done a number of years ago. I don't know, Roy, if you remember how many years ago. It was sometime, I don't know if it was when Dave was here or...
Yeah, it might have been 8-10 years ago.
Yeah, so, we've made a lot of improvements, and that only makes makes those capacities better.
Some of the mains were 6-inch, now they're 12-inch in the interconnects.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's what I have to say tonight.
Good. Bruce, building
Yes.
manager's report.
On my sheet, there it is. So I have a few items for the board this evening. For a building report, as far as work orders and stuff, school is back in session, so we have a lot of teachers coming in and requesting certain things, so the staff has been very busy in all the school departments, doing hanging projectors, fixing outlets that have gone by the wayside this summer. Just minor things, but a lot of work orders coming in, so the staff is very busy doing those things. On another note, as far as field reports, we have started to do another field renovation over at Leahy Field. We started that in conjunction with the help from Colin Drury, the rec director. We're kind of taking out roughly about 3 inches of clay throughout the whole field and replacing with that red clay like we did at the center field softball field. We're doing some fence repairs. A lot of the gates and everything else over the years have kind of deteriorated, so we're doing some gate replacements, post replacements, some spreader replacements on the fence. I got the Ed Hellier for the building division over there. We're going to do some work on the infield of the structure itself, the snack and the announcement stand. We're going to be pressure washing that tomorrow, getting a fresh coat of paint on it, throwing some lighting up there, switch some of those halogen lights out to some LED fixtures. So we'll be there for probably a couple more weeks as time allows us to do so. Another item for the board this evening, Town Hall renovations, Phase 2. We'll be starting to discuss that with actually Denise tomorrow. The second phase of that project will be renovating the old selectman's office, now the town administrator's office, and the meeting room, and renovating the 2 remaining bathrooms down near the clerk's office. We'll also be putting together, I'll be putting together, trying to get some specifications going and everything else for a new fire sprinkler system throughout the building. So we're going to be starting that process also. Other than that, vehicle report, I just got a call from MHQ late this afternoon. Truck 2 in the new admin vehicle will be ready next week. They're sending over to me hopefully by Friday. I'll get the title and all that information I need to go down and register and get the plate, and probably go out next week and pick up the new vehicles. And that's all I have for you.
Very good. Roy?
Okay, John Street, we're just about done with that now. Steve's done a fine job patching in the trench, all the driveways, the berm, that's all in now. Most of the lumen seeding is completed, probably one more day and we'll be done with that, and a cleanup, and we'll be done with John Street. Steve's also keeping up with the hot patch, pothole work orders. And he'll be doing more of that now that we're done with John Street. Tom Pope's doing a fine job keeping up with all the markouts and appointments we've had. We're starting to do water and sewer services now for the new installations you see around town. We're starting to camera sewer and storm drains now. Any street that we're going to be paving in the near future or next year, we're going to be filming that too, in any infrastructure, and checking it out, make sure there's nothing we have to do before then. Daryl doing a great job over at the landfill. Dan will fill you in on that. Trees, because we just had a little storm, any trees that we have, like emergencies, we're taking care of like right away. We're also, any vegetation growing into sidewalks and roads, we're doing a fine job keeping up with that. As far as the future goes, we're going to be doing a 6-inch connection for the upgrade up at the town hall, for the fire sprinkler system, and we're going to be be replacing that hydrant that's out front. That's an old hydrant and not a lot of flow there. We're also starting catch basin repair and cleaning, going back to that. Street sweeping. We got hydrant flushing, starting September 21st till October 3rd. We're also going to be starting on Maple Court and Shaker Road repair at that intersection. We have a short water main loop we're going to be also doing from Moore Street connecting into Maplehurst. And we're going to be doing going back to the trees and the removals very shortly. We have a list of that. We have the hazardous waste collection. We have a truck, from the whatever hazardous paints and so forth we have collected. We'll be bringing out to Minnechaug on Saturday.
This Saturday?
This Saturday. We don't have that much, but anything that came at the transfer station or the fire department has, or anybody else.
We typically work with all the town departments and coordinate, or the fire department coordinates. We do the handling, we do the transport. This year, because of the work that's been done over previous years, really the only 2 departments that have material are the fire department and ourselves. So school department's done a good job clearing out all their materials over the past several years. So it's a relatively small amount of material going this year.
And we also are going to be doing some more pavement markings, the crosswalks and anything that might have to be done, before winter. And that's all I have.
It's my understanding that we had 2 backhoes down this week, and we had that one?
Yes, we have 2 down right now, and we've rented a backhoe from Tyler Equipment.
How long before we get one or both of them back in service,
Hopefully the next day or two. We're working on pins and bushings. We actually had to bring one of the backhoe 31 down to Tyler because of the transfer case, all the gears and everything kind of failed, I guess you can say. So that was about a $5,000 bill for that. Got a bunch of write-ups on backhoe 31, so that's in for repairs too. A lot of rot on that piece of equipment. We've gone into trying to replace or do some modification or metal fabrication on the battery box, but it's too far gone. We've actually, the bottom of the box is gone, the front of the box is gone, and the top of the box is gone. So we're doing some minor fabrication to get it by. We've ordered a new box for backhoe 31. It's scheduled for service in August, so we got it back. We're doing our services on it. Needs inspection sticker, so hopefully be done with those repairs by the end of the day tomorrow or early Friday. Backhoe 17, pins and bushings, so front buckets, it's actually taken two days to get the pins out. Actually had to cut them out and everything else because they were so bad, seized up within the front bucket. The arm portion of the backhoe, Tony hasn't had a chance to look at that because he's still working on the front side, so he can't really test or do anything on the bushings on the arm portion of the backhoe. But more than likely, there's probably not any problems with the front portion of the backhoe. So next couple of days.
Town engineers report, Dan?
Sure. I've got 5 items tonight for the board. The first one is Pease Road. It's the last piece of, there's actually a map in the set. There's a map in the set, and it's basically we're doing about 1,100-foot section of Pease Road at Old Farm Road, milling, a little bit of leveling. We're going to put in some berm. It's really the worst section of the road at the low point. We'll be using the milling machine actually like we did on Allen Street to remove buildup of debris on the side of dirt material. So they're coming in on the 21st. We've coordinated some with Jeff DeLessio. We're looking to detour the road between 8 and 2 o'clock. We'll be detouring at Summers Road and Prospect and trying to keep people from Old Farm from coming into the area. Palmer thinks they can do it quickly. They're promising 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock they'll be out of there. So this is the last piece of road works for this year. And looking forward because that's an ugly section of road. It'd be good to see it done.
Some portions will be doing the full width of the roadway, and other
Yep.
places will only be doing single lanes, similar to what we did on the other side, to really try to stretch the resources as far as we can.
Correct. Second thing I've got is the Shaker Chestnut intersection. I didn't include this in. I'll just hand it out so you can see it. She shows you. Really what we're doing is curb relocation on a couple sides, but we've had to coordinate with National Grid because there are 2 poles, as you can see on the hill on Chestnut, that have to be relocated first. We met this week with Jill Wilson of National Grid, and she's gone through. There's some guys they need to relocate. We've kind of nailed down exactly what the pole relocations, where they have to be for them to work.
It looked like they were cameraing some sewer there, or?
Yeah, that was us. Yeah, there's a sewer there. We're just making sure the integrity is still, because it hasn't been used since the old Bruno's and so forth.
Yeah.
Country
Is it still in good shape?
We have from what we can see, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's to serve the Belcher property
Right.
across the street?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a manhole that's on the property.
Yeah, it looked like right on that corner there.
Right, so we just cambered from there across the street and everything looked fine.
So this sketch basically shows the proposed improvements. The main one being a left turn lane as you come down Chestnut Street Hill, and then a little more room as you come south on Shaker to be able to take the right onto Chestnut Street. We've also been working with VHB for some traffic signal controls as part of that work, but it looks like it'll take them a little while to get the poles relocated. So this may bump into the spring. We'll probably, hopefully, if they get the poles relocated fast, we'll probably end up this will happen next year.
This money coming from the developer?
Combination, there was monies approved, I believe it was about $35,000 approved to fund the controller replacement. Because as you might recall, we've had some issues with that over the years. And then there's a $25,000 donation by the developer towards that, and we believe between those two funding sources, we'll have enough money. We'll do the majority of the labor. We won't do the controller itself, but we'll be doing the curb relocation, the paving work, things like that ourselves, and believe that should cover our expenses.
What about the blinker at the crosswalk?
That, in fact, I just got a call from Collins Electric today. One of the conditions of the site plan approval was that was done in advance of the construction activities, and they are looking to be installing that in the next week or two.
Awesome.
So that'll be underway.
There was a car accident there the other day.
Let's hope that there aren't more.
Yeah, almost hit the person, stopped just in time, but the car behind him, because it was such a fast stop, hit the car in front of him. So
Yeah.
blinking lights have got to help there to just kind of get people slowing down.
One item we're still fine tuning is on the southbound approach in Shaker. One way or the other, we're looking at putting in a right-hand slip lane there. And we're looking at whether we want to do it by some shifting of the center line striping, because there's actually enough pavement in Shaker Road to accommodate that, or a little bit of curb relocation, just a couple of feet on the right-hand side. We haven't decided which approach we want to take, but obviously now's the time to take it. If we do the curb relocation, do it as part of the gas station and convenience store
Right,
activities,
right.
so it's all done when they're done.
Mobilized at the same time.
Right.
What's their time frame? Do you have you heard of it?
They are gearing up to start construction right now. They've got silt fence and hay bales on site. They're starting some brush clearing, I believe, this week, so. in fact, we
Safety
have a-
fence is all up.
Yep. We have a pre-construction meeting with their contractor on Monday, just to go over what DPW issues might be and fire department issues might be relative to the construction of the fuel tanks and things like that. So I imagine that will happen pretty quickly once they get going. They do have to bring in quite a bit of fill, as you can, because of the way that the site drops off, so that'll be likely their first activity after they do the clearing, is bringing in the material and getting the site graded.
Unless it's cost prohibitive, only because I go through there, that intersection a lot. I think space would be good unless it's cost prohibitive. There's a lot of activity
Yep.
in all directions.
All the room.
Multiple times a day, so.
And we don't need much, only a foot or two.
Yeah,
really.
And I think there's actually some curb cuts that have to be filled in anyways, I
Correct.
think, because the new entrance is going to be further to the north.
Right.
And there's already some curb cuts there that I think have to be filled in with curbing anyways, so.
Right, yep.
That's 2 cents.
Okay. Third item is just an update on the landfill closures. Roy mentioned Darryl, Brett, doing the work out there. Got the screening back today. In the last week, we've hydro-seeded 2 areas. We're almost up to an acre, a little less than an acre of hydro-seeded area. So hopefully we'll be screening within the next couple of weeks and have the hydro-seeder back and finish off the job ahead of our October 15th deadline.
You may want to talk a little bit about the different type of seeding that we did in a second on the slope.
Yeah,
It's something I'm not familiar with, didn't work with before.
I've done a lot of landfill work in the past, and bonded fiber matrix, Waste Management uses it everywhere in lieu of the erosion control matting, which you may know of. Sometimes they'll roll that out with the staples. This bonded fiber matrix, it's got like a tackifier in it, and it really holds tight to the slope. So we basically use that on the 3-to-1 slope area around the back side of the site. Everywhere else where it's relatively flat, we're using just straight hydro seed. There's a little more area we'll use it as part of the final seeding out there. But hopefully it'll hold up well, and I know we're starting to see some grass come up in the first section. So looking forward to getting that one done.
We're hopeful 3 weeks probably.
Yeah,
We're out of
2
here.
weeks we should be done, all done. Crack sealing, I know Bob mentioned this is the last meeting, but we're going to basically gearing up for about 4.5 miles crack sealing for October. And you mentioned the streets is Allen, a little short section of Allen, Parker, the north section, quite a bit of Summers from Michael down the Connecticut line, Pease Road between Shaker and Prospect, and then Pleasant Street from the Rotary to Indian Spring. Those are the ones we've targeted. And a little piece of North Main Street in front of right by the entrance to the town hall. So that will be going out to the street soon. As you may know, we do a little less than 35,000 twice a year, spring and fall, and it's I think it's a great way to kind of maintain the integrity of the roads, keep the water out. And then the last one, I've got some information in there about Elm Street. There's an overall picture on top. Yeah, I can come here and hand it out. It's 2,000 feet between Maple Shade and Maynard. I basically spent a fair amount of time walking that whole length. There's a number of poles, number of trees, a little bit of slope, but mostly it's utility poles and trees. So the draft that you're looking at shows an alignment through there, 5-foot wide concrete sidewalk without having to take down any trees or relocating poles. There are a couple addresses, 208, 252, where there's a fair amount of vegetation in front, hedges and such, and some tricky trees. So we're going to obviously plan is to meet with all the residents along this section, just to make sure, explain to them what we're doing, find out if they have any concerns, and we'll adjust, obviously, based on what we find from talking to all the residents. What was I going to say? I guess, so the plan is then, once we do that, we'll do a bid package, and we'll bid it this winter for the spring work.
We're staying on the west side?
It's all on the, it's all
On the west side?
Yep, left side, or west side, all the way up. And we stopped, so Maple Shade to Maynard.
Since we have the crosswalks and pedestrian lights at Elm and Maple Shade, the goal is to get the pedestrians down to that signalized intersection where they can then safely cross the street.
Yeah, you can see it, the first sheet shows where the two crosswalks are.
Yeah.
So they'll come down. We're not going to cross on that north side. But we'll get them to the crosswalk sections that work so they get to the school.
So I know we try and bleed neighborhoods when we can onto the sidewalk, right? Just help me with Maynard and Revere. And doesn't Revere connect to
Dawes and that neighborhood.
the rest
Yes,
of those streets?
it does.
But does Maynard?
No, Maynard goes
No.
to the old quarry.
Maynard goes to Redstone.
Right.
Goes to the old quarry, so there's probably like maybe 50.
So-
You see it on this front one.
Right, so maybe you guys studied it, but why
Why stop at Maynard?
wouldn't we go to Revere
Funding, we're thinking at this point
that much, really?
that we have adequate funding at most to get to Maynard in this current year. As you may remember, we did not get any additional sidewalk appropriation in fiscal 17, so we're using remaining fiscal 15 and 16 monies. But yeah, then there'd be continuation. One issue that will be worthy of further discussion, not only here, but elsewhere, is the end of Revere and Dawes is a
Right.
paper street. So whether or not the town at some point would be looking to perhaps accept that portion, the end of Dawes, would be one alternative. If that was going to be the public pedestrian pathway to get through to Elm Street, in lieu of building a sidewalk all the way up on the remainder of Elm
That
Street,
dirt
which is a
section.
fairly difficult place to construct because of steep slopes and things like that.
That third section of Dawes Street is what you're talking
Right,
about.
yeah. So at this point, I don't think we can, officially say that the pedestrian route is up Revere and Dawes, because we don't own Dawes.
I know we can't officially say it, but that's the way the kids walk. And then the second part of that formula would be, I think we had opposition on that one, didn't we?
Some trees.
No, resident. Didn't the resident not want that street? Didn't we go through this? You weren't on the board, so didn't we go through this 14, 18 years, a while ago, where there was going to be a connection, but then the residents that live on that dirt part absolutely don't want it turned into a town street, so I don't know where it would be today.
Yeah.
I think
But
one
my
of
short
them's
memory-
I think one of them's deceased.
And that may be the case. Residents might have changed, people may not be there, so, but in any case,
Yeah.
Certainly if we have funding, we
there's
would
no
continue
chapter
to-
90 or any other, you're already mobilized, you're already
Right.
here.
To
Yeah.
gain that 300 feet. or
This street goes and empties out another
Yeah.
40 houses, 30 houses.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
It's a
So, I'm not telling you to do it, I'm just,
But I got the point,
yeah, I'm not telling you to do it, I'm just saying,
Yeah, but
seems like pretty close, we're almost there.
We would also want to have a discussion with another private business owner, of which we would be connecting the sidewalk through,
Through the
most
island.
likely.
On our property though.
Right now, the options would be to remove those islands that are currently landscaped and put a sidewalk there, or allow pedestrians to come through a parking lot. So I think it's a discussion we could have and probably
Yeah, I just-
would be workable.
I think he'd be willing to.
Yeah,
To work with.
I mean, and I could probably look the other way and say people are gonna walk through a sidewalk anyways, and just cross that one street and be on our sidewalk, but it's not really a sidewalk, it's a parking lot for a business, so it's worthy of a discussion,
And then
possibly.
if you're walking through the grass and,
Right,
yeah.
So
okay,
Okay, that's all I got.
lots of good stuff.
Good. Very good.
now the most important thing.
Now the rookie, all right, rookie, you're on.
Yeah, page one.
All right, you got it all figured out now, what to say and how to do it? Yeah.
Hazing 101.
Yeah, you got the 40-minute,
Right.
yeah, training, ready, set, go.
Yeah. So thank you guys for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I've been here for almost 2 weeks now. I started on September 1st, and I don't know how much Bob told you, but I came here from working with the Commonwealth in Boston, specifically with a group called MassGIS, which is the state's mapping agency. When I walked in the door, I hit the ground running. Bob had done a lot of legwork working with National Grid, and the one piece of one map that I brought with me today is kind of culmination of a couple of days' work working with that National Grid information to make a map of streetlights in East Long Meadow. National Grid didn't make it easy on us. They delivered the data in kind of 2 different pieces. They delivered us poles, and then they delivered us streetlights, and I had to make the 2 things talk together, which wasn't super easy, but we got what we were looking for. And that's what this map shows you. All the orange dots all over town, those are the streetlight lamp locations. And this is the sort of thing that I can do, and I can provide, analysis showing you coverage areas, where are the holes in town, what residential areas could potentially need streetlights. I think there was a resident that was talking to Bob about not having service in her area. What was the name of it?
Western View Circle.
Western View Circle,
Yeah.
and sure enough, we did a little view shed showing a 200-foot buffer around each street light, and her house is not covered by that street lamp. So, yeah, I've been working with Roy, and I'm really excited to work with all of these guys and provide data and maps and analysis that can help everybody out.
Just note, when you look at this map, you'll see the dots that are scattered across here. That's every single National Grid pole. Some of them are privately owned poles or on private property. They're not all, because you'll see, there are cross-country transmission lines and other types of things. It goes well beyond the poles that we have in our rights-of-way, and we have streetlights on.
Yeah. So we have National Grid.